Hello friends, welcome back to Geeky Sanjay. Today I am releasing my LLD 4 project module notes. I have compiled all the notes into over 200 pages. I tried to make it simple and provide step-by-step explanation as much as I could. I'll walk you through these notes quickly. Let's get started. We begin with the basics. Intro to backend module version control. First up, we have the front end and backend. The front end, what you see and interact with on a website or application. The backend, on the other end, is the behind the scene part that keeps everything running smoothly. Next, let's talk about the GitHub. Here we will see what Git is and how it works. Git is a version control system that manages multiple copies of our code in the form of repositories and branches. With Git, we can communicate and collaborate on code with other developers. Now moving to working with Git remote. Here we will understand difference between Git and GitHub. Git is a command and GitHub is a website that stores your data. We can learn everything about Git here, like what branches are, how to create a repositories on Git, an important concept like merging. If you want to cover Git in detail, I have created a Git series on YouTube and I will share the link in the description. Next, we dive into Spring Boot and calling third-party APIs. Here you will learn about monolithic architecture and why we use microservices. Monolithic architecture means an app with all features together in one app, while microservices are small application of the big application which are easier to manage and save resources. I also cover what a framework is and why it is required in modern development like Spring Boot. We start with Spring Boot dependency injection and creating our first APIs. Next is Embassy request in Spring REST. We cover the introduction to an e-commerce project requirement. What is API? Application Programming Interface is a concept between the user and application where the user provides some input and request. The application gives a response as per the input. We also cover the REST API. Representational state transfer is a set of standards that guide how API should be designed and structured. It's like a rule book we follow when creating a APIs. We also see HTTP status code and common HTTP methods. Next, calling third-party APIs. In this section, we will see how the call third-party APIs using REST template like fake store API. We will work with different type of APIs like getting products, category and fake store API and implementation them using Spring Boot. Next, handling exception and introduction to Spring Data JPA. Here, we will learn how to handle exception using response entity, which is a container for our response and allow us to return error or success message with response code. We will see how to handle all errors centrally using the REST control advice annotation. Next, we will see how Spring Data JPA works. Spring JPA is a powerful feature that lets us interact with database without writing SQL code using rewritten methods. We will also see how to write custom methods in the repositories. Next, repositories UUIDs representing inheritance. Here we will see how handle primary key and the issue when using integer IDs to create an auto-generated key and how to solve using UUID, universally unique identifiers. We will manage UUID with multiple instances of services and databases. Next, jump to the JPA query cardinality mapping. Here we will see how to create table using models and explain the mapping between entities like one to many and many to one. We also learn about type of queries like SQL, Hibernate query language, which help us write query for complex data retrieval with JPA repository. Next, query methods, fetch types, mode, schema versioning. Here we will see fetch type like lazy and eager. Lazy is the default fetch type where associate products are not loaded automatically when fetching categories. If we want to load products when a category, we change it to eager. We will also see how to do schema versioning using Flyway. Next, move to the unit testing. Here we will see everything about testing from scratch, why testing is required, and what TTD, test driven development, is. There are two approaches. First, write a feature that write a test. Second, write all tests, make them fail, then write a feature to make them pass. We will also learn about flaky tests and how to avoid them. We will learn type of testing like unit testing, integration testing, and functional testing. Next, testing good practice, mocking type of doubles. Here we will see how to write a good test and what practice to follow, like a 3S principle: arrange, act, assert. We provide step-by-step instructions for writing good test, how to mock data for functional test, and the approaches to follow the make it optimize. Next, testing folder structure and test annotation. Here we will see what the folder structure should be for writing test and what should be each folder. We will learn how to write test for specific features and run them with a single click. We will also learn about testing annotation like add the test, add before, add after, and more, and get hands-on practice by writing our first test. Next, authentication, authentication versus authorization, token, BCrypt. Here we will see the difference between authentication, authorization. For example, authentication is like showing your school ID to enter the school, but authorization is needed to enter the principal's room. Authentication is providing your identity, but authorization gives you permission to do something. We will learn about the complete authentication flow, how tokens are created, and how to store password. I also created a video on authentication and authorization, and I will add its link in the description. Next, authentication, implementing user service cell. In the previous chapter we saw how to authenticate using token, but nowadays many websites offer sign up using Google and Facebook. Here we will see how to use third-party APIs for authentication and how to create our own custom OAuth application with step-by-step guide. Next, in the authentication, implementing OAuth 2. As authentication is a common feature for most applications, and in the previous chapter we saw how to create custom OAuth which might have some flaws. Here we will learn the professional way to implement OAuth 2 using Spring Boot security. We will learn about Spring Boot security in detail and how to implement in our application. Next, we will learn EVS and RDS. Here we will see what EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, is on Amazon. It is virtual machine created on Amazon to upload files. EVS, Elastic Beanstalk, is a feature that creates machines automatically as per guideline, unlikely EC2 where we create it manually. EVS automatically create EC2 machines as required and does load balancing. RDS, Relational Database Service, is used to set up database on AWS. I have created details video on EC2, EVS and RDS, and I will add the link in the description. Next, we will see BPS security groups Route 53. It is also related to AWS, where we will see what a virtual private cloud VPC is. It like a container where we create a network of the same type of instance that can only talk to each other. Other services cannot interfere with it. Security group is a special group set up to access resources for a special group of IPs. We also learn about Route 53, which is like a DNS where we will route requests to specific services. Next, creating payment microservices, cron and webhooks. Here we will create a payment microservices using Razorpay gateway. We will see what a payment gateway is, how it works, and how to implement it step by step. I also created a detailed video on it and I will add this link in the description. Next, optimizing APIs using Redis and Kafka. Here we will learn what caching is, why it is required, and how to update it. We will understand global caching and its benefit and implement caching in our services using Redis. Next, messaging queue using Kafka. Here we will learn what a messaging queue is. For example, on an e-commerce website, after placing an order, many tasks happen asynchronously, like notifying the seller, courier service. This is handled by the messaging queue using the Kafka. Next, Spring Cloud. Here we will learn about Spring Cloud, which help us manage our microservices like service discovery, load balancing, routing, and task management. For example, when a user requests a product service, it can have many instances. Service discovery keeps track of all instances and help manage them with load balancing. This is all managed using Spring Cloud. Next, service discovery and load balancer. Here we will learn how service discovery and load balancer works together and get hands-on experience by writing code for an API gateway and completing the flow. Next, paging, sorting, searching. Here we will learn about common feature like paging, sorting and searching records using JPA repository and write the code for it. That's it for today's video. I hope you found this walkthrough of my LLD4 project module notes helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more detailed video. Links to detailed video and additional resources are in the description below. Thanks for watching and happy coding.